Today is Thursday, August 7th, 2025. This is Quick Start from CBN News. I'm Dan Antros. A mass shooting at an Army base. We'll have that top story and more on today's podcast, where we bring you news from a Christian perspective. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating. You can email us your thoughts as well. quickstartpodcast@cbn.org. That's our email address. We'd love to hear from you because we are grateful for you being here each and every weekday, bright and early, as we are going through that news of the day. Joining me today, CBN's Billy Hallowell, Trey Goins-Phillips. On the docket today, gentlemen, on the focus story, a homeless man being hailed a hero for saving a child.
Yeah, this story is wild, and the guy ran out into traffic, saved this kid, so we'll get into all the details on that story.
All right, looking forward to the details. They're coming up in just a moment. Also coming up on the main thing, the war in Gaza not being fought just on the battlefield, also being waged in newsrooms around the world. There's a narrative taking hold that could have some pretty big consequences. CBN's Chris Mitchell from Jerusalem has the details on that. All right, make sure you are subscribed to all of our CBN News podcasts. Those links are in the description here, as always, of this episode. And also, make sure, if you haven't already, sign up for that Substack. It's faithwire.substack.com. We are praying through the news of the day there together as a group of believers who are concerned about the things going on in the world. So join us there at faithwire.substack.com. All right, we are going to head to the news now in 90 seconds. And chaos erupted at Fort Stewart Army Base in Georgia yesterday when a soldier opened fire on fellow service members, wounding 5 before finally being captured. The base was placed on lockdown around 11 a.m., affecting schools and key facilities, including Wright and Evans Army Field. The lockdown was lifted just over an hour later once the shooter, who's also a soldier, was apprehended. All 5 victims are hospitalized. Officials say there's no longer an active threat. The suspect, allegedly responsible for the shooting of at least 5 soldiers, was reported, according to local authorities, to be 28-year-old Army Sergeant Cornelius Radford, who reportedly has ties to Florida. President Trump was briefed on the situation. And a Nigerian high court has overturned the conviction of a Christian man identified only as David, who was jailed for helping 2 women escape violence after they converted to Christianity. He has no legal representation, had no legal representation during his rushed 3-day trial. Legal group ADF International has backed the successful appeal, the High Court ordering his immediate release and the return of fines he paid. Those are just some of today's top headlines. You can check out more stories over at cbnnews.com, and still waiting for more details to unfold. There's really no good outcome in this whole situation. I'm just praying for everyone involved. And actually, the only positive here is that so far, no one has died.
Yeah, it's like these events are happening almost every day now, it feels like, right? And we don't have the details. We don't have the information. We're trying to discern. Sometimes we never find out the why, and that makes it very difficult, right? We just know one thing. We know that this is evil, that doing this sort of thing is evil, and that there seems to be an increase in that sort of activity. And so why that is happening, who knows? But we've got to be in prayer. It's just a constant reminder to me to be in prayer, not just for our country, but for our leaders, for our local communities, and for the safety of our loved ones.
And I also think, part of surrendering to God and not having control is realizing that we might not get answers to these things. There are a lot of things that we go through life that we never get an answer to, right? We don't understand why things happen the way they do, why God allows certain things, but we do know from Scripture that, and just from experiencing life, that this is a fallen and broken world. There are just evil things that happen, and Satan is the prince and power of the air, and sometimes that's the only why, that's the only explanation that we ever do get, right? But as Christians, that can sound so doom and gloom, but as Christians, there's a lot of hope because we know that this is not forever. This is a temporary situation that we're all in, and that God is returning. He offered a way of salvation, a way of redemption, and he's returning one day. So in either way, we'll be reunited, whether Jesus comes back or we go to heaven. One way or the other, it's going to end up with us being reunited with Christ. So that's the ultimate encouragement. But man, some of these stories can just be like bewildering. Why do people do the kinds of evil that they do?
Yeah. And I think that's a good one to put on the Substack prayer points to be praying for, because there's so many levels to this. Like what leads somebody to want to take this action, and prayers for people who might be going down that road right now, that God would put somebody in their lives to intervene and show them the truth, show them the light, and show them who God made them to be. So whatever they're despairing about, whatever they're frustrated about, they can put it at the foot of the cross, and that we don't have as many, because that's really the only, I mean, you can make all the laws you want, but unless you change hearts, you're not changing anything right now. You're just going to change the mechanism for violence that somebody goes to use. You see it in the UK all the time. They have stricter gun laws over there, and people are getting mowed down in cars and with knives and things like that. So you can't, you're only changing the tools of destruction there if you don't change the heart. So definitely need to be praying for that situation and for a lot of things that are happening around the world. Again, you can do that over at that faithwire.substack.com. All right, we're going to go over to the focus story now. And as we mentioned there at the top, a homeless man receiving praise for saving a young child. Tell me about this one.
Yeah, this is a fascinating story. You have a guy who's out in Wisconsin in Green Bay. And let's sort of backtrack into this story. There was a 6-year-old child who ran into traffic, and that's essentially what happened on Monday. A really scary situation. Her mother, Faith Roberts, she's the mom of 4 kids, and apparently all 4 of these kids have special needs. And the child, the 6-year-old in question here, actually reportedly has autism. And so this child apparently took off running. The family was in the middle of moving from an apartment to a home. So they're in the middle of this move. The grandmother is with them, and the child takes off running. And her mom explained, she elopes and she thinks it's funny. It becomes sort of this game of chase, so her daughter has done this before. And it's sort of like, she said, a dog. If you run, they'll chase you. So if you chase after her, she'll run. And so the problem they had with this situation is that this child ended up in the middle of an insanely busy road. And that immediately left her family, as they were watching this unfold, shocked. Her grandmother was screaming for help. And that's when we saw Weldon Tucker, that's his name. He apparently heard her screaming for help. Other people were not stepping in. And this homeless man ran in, saved the day, and apparently grabbed the child and rescued her.
Wow, amazing by Weldon there. How is the family reacting to what they saw unfold?
Yeah, so the mom, Roberts, she said that he didn't even think, that once he realized, he took off running after her, ran into traffic, selflessly risked his life. So they're obviously praising him for these actions. And especially when other people weren't stepping in, the grandmother's screaming and everybody's sort of watching. They probably didn't know what was going on. But apparently the family found out that he was struggling with homelessness. And so, they were trying to dig into details to thank him. They wanted to, catch up with him, thank him. But they're just really, really grateful. He's been held a hero over this whole thing. And, obviously grateful that her daughter was safe.
Yeah, absolutely. How's Weldon responding to all this?
That's where this is interesting. So the media caught up with him, and, they were asking him about what this was like. And really, from what we know, we don't know about his backstory. We don't know much about him, but the interview that he did do, there was a lot of humility. He said, I just do my best, and I hope in anybody's situation like this, somebody would do the same. And he said, I'm so used to doing helpful things. When I hear that they were, I think talking about those who are so thankful for him, it's hard to get the feedback because I'm not used to it all the time. So, he's used to doing good, but he doesn't really hear a lot of positive things, it sounds like. And here everybody is saying all these positive things. And Green Bay Mayor Eric Jenrich is actually planning to honor him during a common council meeting on August 19th. And so he's invited the family as well to come for that honoring.
Yeah. Does he have a GoFundMe or anything like that going that people can contribute to? Because this is one of those situations where you just kind of hope that, it is one good deed, but who knows what is going on in Weldon's life that led him to be homeless. So hopefully it's not addiction or something like that that's ongoing. Hopefully he's clear of that, but it would be great if he could get a place to live out of this.
Yeah, I have not seen anything launch yet for him, but I know there's a local shelter that was apparently assisting and helping him before this. So we'll have to keep an eye out and see if there's an update. But look, a story like this could end very differently,
Yeah.
and for somebody to step in selflessly like that and put themselves at risk, that's a rare thing, unfortunately, today.
Yeah, it really is. And look, honestly, sometimes it takes somebody who's very keen and observant to notice what's going on. And to realize what's going on and actually step in. Because sometimes when you're not expecting something weird to happen. So a kid running out or screaming, your first instinct might be, I'm just not going to get involved because I don't even know what's going on here. And so you're just trying to stay out of it, not because you're cold or callous, but because you're confused and you're just not really sure what the deal is. So sometimes it takes somebody and God puts in the right place at the right time to recognize what's going on quickly and act. And that's exactly what Weldon did. And definitely praying for him that he can get back on his feet.
And, what a positive perspective this guy has, this homeless guy, right? That he's willing to put himself in harm's way. He is happy to help people. He repeatedly helps people. He's like, most people don't ever tell me thank you, but I keep doing it anyway, and sometimes I get a thank you. And obviously he's gotten that appreciation out of this, but I just think all of us, most of us listening to, we live with a lot of creature comforts and we're blessed with homes or apartments, whatever the situation is, whatever our living situation is. And I don't know about y'all, but I can be frustrated and complain about the silliest little things sometimes. Yep. And it can kind of set off my mood for the whole morning or afternoon, at whatever time it is. It's something kind of ticks me off. And I'm like,
yeah, dealing with you is tough, Trey. Dealing with you is tough. No, I'm kidding. But we can all be that way, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is just a great reminder that at the end of the day, it's our life is what matters, because our life has innate value, and then our relationship with the Lord. Those are the things that matter the most in this life. And I pray Weldon, knows Jesus, and like you said, for sure, I hope he finds a home, a housing situation, whatever his story is.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you bringing that story to the podcast today, Billy. Those are the kinds of ones we definitely need in the midst of the chaos that's going on around the world. So appreciate that. All right, we are going to head to the main thing now. And did Israel just become a global villain, or did it stop a radical regime from going nuclear? That's the stark choice media watchdog Gil Hoffman says the world is facing right now. He joined CBN's Chris Mitchell to break down the high-stakes propaganda war playing out in headlines today. That's today's main thing.
First of all, there's been a picture in the front page of the New York Times. Tell us about that and why you wanted to focus on that at Honest Reporting.
Well, this picture, Chris, that was published on the cover of the New York Times and other media outlets around the world was very damaging to Israel's reputation at a very sensitive time. There are negotiations now to bring home our hostages and end the war. These hostages are starving. Whether the people of Gaza are starving is a question. The hostages of Israel are definitely starving in Hamas tunnels. And unfortunately, the attention was distracted by these photos. This one in particular that you can't turn a blind eye to, of a child who looks emaciated and terrible. Well, it turns out that this picture was of a boy who was sick from a muscular disease that had nothing to do with this war, nothing to do with Israel, but Israel around the world was accused of purposely starving Gazan children, and the damage has been done. The decisions were made about recognizing a Palestinian state by France and England and in Canada. Even the President of the United States said you can't fake starvation. Well, maybe you can, Chris.
Is there a cause and effect? Do these pictures and media reporting cause diplomatic tsunami against Israel? Because so many countries are now calling for a Palestinian state.
And diplomatic tsunami is absolutely the right term, unfortunately, Chris. This led to a wave of criticism all around the world. That's false, based on dishonest reporting by media outlets like the New York Times. And on my way here into this interview, I checked with my team that monitors media from around the world. I said, well, the New York Times apology wasn't even really an apology. It praised its own reporters who made a mistake. Did other media outlets apologize at all? And they found none.
And I understand that the New York Times actually posted this on X account with 55 million, but the apology you call a non-apology was actually on a lesser account of maybe 88,000.
Correct. And their public relations account, as if anybody wants public relations from the New York Times. People have got with the New York Times for news. And if you make a mistake of that kind of proportion that changed history, then you need to have an article on the front page of your paper, on the front page of your website, exactly the way you had that picture that caught people's attention around the world. And so the New York Times has prolonged this war. There are people who blamed Israel for prolonging the war, blamed Netanyahu for prolonging the war. Certainly people accurately blame Hamas for prolonging this war. And this time it's the media that's prolonged the war. The families here that are waiting for their loved ones to come home from Hamas terror dungeons, they know that it's the media's fault, and that's sick.
How do you explain this? Not only the New York Times, but many other media that run with pictures like this or reports like this.
I understand that they want to sell newspapers and they want to get clicks on their website. That's how it works. It's a business nowadays. Even media outlets that are known for being relatively pro-Israel, they ran these pictures because that's what grips at your heart. You know, in the end, we're all humans. You see a sick child, you can't help but want to find out what caused this child to be sick. And that's why media outlets need to do their homework. And the New York Times and others did not.
Final question, Gil. What's the bottom line, and what are you trying to do through honest reporting?
We need people to be aware that there's going to be a decision made around the world soon. This war on the military battlefield is ending, please God, very soon. But the war on the media battlefield, the narrative war, is going to be continuing. And people are going to be deciding, did Israel in this war become an international pariah, or did it save the world from an Islamic fundamentalist nuclear bomb? The contrast is that stark. We need Christians who are watching this show to tell their friends the truth about Israel making the world a better place. We share what you see on social media of Honest Reporting, or go to honestreporting.com so people will know the truth, and you can pass it on with your social media. That will go a long way because people see their friends as sources of information, and before you know it, your likers of your likers and your friends of your friends will know the truth.
Yeah. Well, Gil Hoffman, thanks for joining us and for the great work you do there at honestreporting.com.
My pleasure, Chris.
All right, Chris, appreciate that report very much. And that's going to leave us with time on this Friday Junior edition of the Quick Start Podcast for one last thing.
We got Philippians 2:3-4. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. And I think about that verse, and then I think about somebody running into traffic to save a kid. And I know that, obviously there's context here, but I still think it applies. It's a powerful reminder to put others above ourselves.
In a world of me time and self-care, I'm not sure that I really love that verse, but I'm kidding. It's a great reminder. It's a good reminder that this life is not about us.
Absolutely. All right. Good verse to leave it on for this Thursday edition of the Quick Start Podcast. As always, make sure you're getting on over to cbnnews.com. and faithwire.com for more news from a Christian perspective. Also, pray through the news of the day with us. faithwire.substack.com. All right, Lord willing, and that creek don't rise up on us. We'll be back here tomorrow with more. God bless. We'll see you then.